Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Coffee Talk. It's lovely to be back again this week 2 of being back after our big summer break. Again, just myself and the beautiful Elyse Richmond. And we today wanted to talk about, we often say we chit chat a little bit before we log on about what are we talking about today? What's going on? And it's been an interesting week. Obviously, we talked a lot about the really intense energies in the last few weeks with all of the astrological things that are happening and the equinox and shifting into fall and Libra and all of that beautiful stuff. But really, we've been talking this, or we were just chatting about how there's a real energy of needing to become really aware of our boundaries, needing to become aware of what feels in alignment with us and what doesn't. And that could be people, places, things, food, jobs, whatever. It can be literally anything. And also how we're observing the world right now and how it can feel like a tricky place to exist, especially if we're not feeling really clear and strong in our boundaries. And there's a lot happening, and it can feel really, I know for myself, we can get pulled into the whirl of that chaos pretty quickly if I'm not maintaining my boundaries, if I'm not really aware of my own energy and what's going to be in alignment for me. It can really get into my brain and make me feel really unbalanced and really ungrounded and send me down tangents in my mind and stress responses and belief systems that just really don't serve me and support me and what I'm here to do and why I'm on this earth. So that's kind of the vibe of what we're talking about today.
Hmm.
How are you feeling with all that?
Well, yeah, I think you said it really well when saying like when you're out of alignment, right? Making boundaries when out of alignment is really difficult, right? Because those boundaries might be set from an emotional reactive place, maybe because we're out of alignment, because we've been triggered, or because we've been pushed too far, we've fallen into energy that is naturally outside of where our healthy vibration lies. You know what I mean? And so it can get tricky. It can get tricky being consistent with your boundaries then if they're done, made when you're out of alignment. So I think
Mhm.
when we feel like that might be a like an alarm clock. I talk about how we use alarm clocks, whether it's like, if we have anxiety, that's our alarm clock. If we're, getting snippy, if we're really tired, if our nervous system's taxed, that's usually an indicator of like, oh, okay, I'm out of alignment here. And so a lot of times not having proper boundaries can really lead to you being out of alignment. So really the part that I like to say is like finding your balance first, coming into your alignment first, doing what you need to do first, and then taking a look at saying like from that place, from that like balanced place, what serves me in this moment. So it can be boundaries within the current moment, or it can be boundaries within the current cycle. It could be boundaries of a lifetime, right? Like sometimes
Mhm.
they move and change, and that's okay
Mhm.
because you're the one making them. And it's in honoring of who you are and what you need from that place of balance. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Totally.
And one of the things that is coming up with me a lot with clients and myself, obviously, is, you know, the whole concept of making boundaries in the first place was something that was relatively new to me 5 years ago, right? Like I had heard about it, but like actually like maintaining them, right? And it's still obviously an ongoing thing with people. But it's really about like boundaries that kind of stem from that, looking outside of just the boundaries with people. But like, what are your energetic boundaries around conversations with people? Like, is there certain types of conversations or energies in conversation where you're like, it's not within my boundaries to talk about.
Mhm.
It's not within my boundaries to go down this road. It makes it really like, for me, really like traumatic type conversations, or where we're talking about like really like gut wrenching, certain topics, especially, I'll
Hmm.
be like, no, like this is, I don't want to hear it. No, 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 you have to
Hmm.
hear it. No, no, I don't want to hear this. It's
Hmm.
not within my boundaries to talk about this right now because my nervous system is not ready for this, you know? So like conversations, having that. Boundaries within like what you're looking at on social media. Like if you
Hmm.
see something, if you're a bit of a scroller or whatever, and you go through something and something comes up, like hold down not interested. You don't want that to be a part of your algorithm, right? Like setting boundaries within your social media is really important too. Do you need to go through and filter out the stories that you're seeing from people, the topics? Because if you see it coming up over and over and it's really not within your boundaries, you're really uncomfortable with it, it's time to change those algorithms up and start deleting this not interested,
Hmm.
because we have to set our boundaries with all of the things that's kind of prevalent in our life, and social media is really prevalent,
Hmm.
right? Like if we like coming on YouTube, I love going on YouTube and listening to astrologers or channelers. I love learning, and it's like it's a place that connects me to spirit. But then, there's certain things that come up and I'm like, I'm at my social media limit, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm at my outside of perspective, like outside of myself limit. Even if they're talking about good things, set those boundaries for yourself, because as soon as you feel yourself coming out of alignment with something, that is an indicator that this probably is your time to let go, stop, you've hit your limit, or that's not good, that's not right for you. And then that can be your indicator of maybe what you should consider bringing into like creating a boundary for. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, social media is such a tricky one. And I really loved what you said about, oh, I've hit my limit, because I'll even notice that with people who I really identify with their messages, or I'm like, oh, I really like this creator. I really like the information that they bring forward. And then sometimes I notice there's a response in my body of like, whoop, that
Mm,
doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel
yeah.
like it resonates. Or is it that message, is it that I'm at my limit of like I've just heard too much and my brain and body is like no more, thank you.
Yeah.
It can be so many different things, and people could scroll past our videos and be like, not my vibe.
Right. And
Totally
that's why we say
fine.
take what resonates and leave what
Exactly.
doesn't. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And it's so interesting because I feel like we've entered into this world with social media, and it's so complex and nuanced in that we operate as if so much should be black and white, but I feel like everything is just very gray.
Mm,
And I feel like we as a human race have a really hard time existing in the gray. We really want to have things be yes, no, black, white, right, wrong, da, da, da. And I just don't really believe that that exists a whole lot. And people can disagree with me on that.
well, I think that we've been trained to believe, like I think it's a part of our programming to
For sure.
believe that black and white is the way to go, because then that's easy for the programmer, I should
Hmm.
say. You know what I mean? If
Hmm.
somebody has that simple yes or no, rather than like we've talked about this in the past,
Hmm.
rather than being like they ask you a question and whether it's like yes or no, right or wrong, it's like, I don't know, how does it feel to you? Like, how does that feel in your body? When
Hmm.
you say that, when you ask that, like, I don't know, you tell me.
Hmm.
This is a you question, right?
Hmm.
And like sometimes people stop. I think it's actually easier for kids to really lean into it because they haven't been down the program so long.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
when you're saying to adults, it's like check into your body, check into your system. It's like, well, what do you mean?
Hmm.
What does
Hmm.
that look like?
Yeah.
Right?
And our
Because
brain is so good at taking over in those moments and be like, well, I've been taught this and I've been taught this, and
yeah.
this is the way it is. And I think when we're looking at so much changing in the world very rapidly, so many things happening, we're more connected than ever. But it feels like we don't know what to do with all of this information. And I think that
Mhm.
that even exists in the spiritual sense as well, right? When we look at creators and people are making their guides, and the energies that they connect with are making, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for, it's left my brain, but like predictions or things like that. And they can be very different from person to person, right? There's so much perception, there's so much gray. Even I was watching um Tyler Henry has a new show on Netflix where he does like readings for people, and we were watching it last night. And even watching him, he's like a
Like a
world.
new one, like a new one?
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
it's like a weekly live show where he just does like a group reading for like it's a celebrity usually and then like three or four of their friends, family members and such. And he's a world-renowned medium. And even watching him and the way in which he perceives information and the people that he's reading for, some of them are like, that doesn't fit for me or whatever. And then all of a sudden their brain will make the leap of, oh, it was this. It was, oh, you were talking about this. And so there's this perception piece. There's this gray that it doesn't negate what he's saying or what he's getting as a medium. But in the person's brain that's trying to hear the information and place it, their brain's looking at it very literally. Whereas, like you and
Yeah,
I both know, spirit stuff is so up for interpretation and perception,
yeah.
and it can be tricky sometimes, especially if you got a spirit that's not being super clear, or you're kind of speaking in two different languages around what your signs, symbols, understandings are, and how you're portraying that, or trying to verbalize it, like trying to find the words from the things that are happening through in your mind through spirit. So it's,
Energy. Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's so interesting. But I think it's really uncomfortable for a lot of us to be in that
Yeah.
space. And
I
for that exact
think,
reason, the programming, like you said.
yeah. You know what really comes up when you're talking about this, specifically with like the Tyler Henry thing too, and like predictions? It's so interesting because you have to take predictions with a grain of salt because they're being predicted within the energetic field frequency in like of that current vibration, right? And so
Totally.
which is always up to change, alter, like timeline shift constantly, right? And then what's more is the reader, the medium or the intuitive, the one that has connected to the energy will be in a certain vibration and the projection will come from that vibration. But when they're reading somebody else, they can be in a completely different frequency, right? And so
Mm,
what they're wanting to hear and what the reader is giving them, it comes from two different, like, so it's really hard. Like when I'm reading people too, it's really hard for me to reach the energetic frequency of bringing in someone from the other side, or and then connecting to their energy field and holding that space open to be able to like kind of take both energies
mhm,
in. And so the whole point of this is that sometimes when you have to take what resonates, you literally can't take what resonates because it's not resonating in the energetic frequency in which you are at that moment, and that's okay.
yeah.
It's okay. And it's okay to not agree with everything. It's okay to choose not to watch the news, even though it's so important, the presidential election.
Mhm,
And that's so important. You should be watching it. Like, it's okay if you're like, no, that doesn't resonate with me. I don't follow politics because the energies of it doesn't resonate for me.
mhm,
Because you can very much have a perspective and something that does resonate with you and not want to watch what's going on between two parties. Like those are
mhm,
two completely different things. And so really like the whole point of this with making boundaries and energetic boundaries is like get really comfortable and practice getting comfortable with your energetic signature and the frequency in which you're in. And if you're finding yourself surrounded by stuff that you're not comfortable with because it's coming in at a lower frequency, then you've got to go in and realign yourself because
mhm,
essentially whatever you put out is going to keep on coming back at you like that algorithm.
mhm,
Right. And so if you're ready for an energetic upgrade, put the boundaries up. I say put the boundaries up like a fence, like you built a fence. Okay. And then go in your house. Don't stand around the fence and be like, nope, 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 because then you're staying in the energetic frequency in which it was created in the first place.
mhm,
Go back in the house, close the door, and then go and then like smudge your home, right? Go in here and bring the energy into an alignment that you're comfortable with so that it makes it a heck of a lot easier to maintain your boundaries. Because when it's outside of your energetic frequency, something that is not resonating with you, it's easy to feel the difference. I
mhm,
look at things that I outgrew, right? It's all evolution, right? Like I used to resonate in a certain frequency where I would take part in social situations, even conversations and stuff like that. And now it's not like I judge it. It's just it absolutely doesn't resonate with me. And if
Hmm.
it would ever come up, I'd be like, whoa, I haven't like that.
Hmm.
That would feel so foreign for me. I can't
Hmm.
imagine what it would feel like to want to do that again. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because it's so much that I've maintained the alignment that frequency isn't resonating anymore. And that's okay. And that's what we call the gray area because it's not black or white.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's your energetic signature and where you feel comfortable resonating. And if you're finding yourself constantly in energies, whether it's people, situations, choices, social media, whatever it is that is outside of a frequency that you're comfortable being in, it's time to close the doors, come in home, and then realign because
Hmm.
that's what makes it easier to define your boundaries in the first place.
Yeah.
So, not action first, go in an alignment, do this, change your thoughts, which change your beliefs, then do the actions, right?
Yeah, totally. And you brought up something that kind of triggered a thought process for me around our evolution, because I think sometimes the rhetoric around whatever boundary we're setting is like, this is my boundary and it's hard and fast and da da da. And to your point, you set the boundary, you come back into yourself and you realign. What the constant process for me in that realignment is checking back in with my value systems, with my belief system, which with my spirit self, with who I want to be as a person, and also being open to, do I need to evolve in this thought process? Is my boundary to shut the door because that was really triggering for me or it was scary for me, but maybe it's a growth edge. Maybe it's an area where I'm like, oh shit, I might be off base in this. I might
Totally.
need to reevaluate my my beliefs or my thoughts here, because when
Hmm.
I actually connect them with my value system and who I am as a person, as a soul, as a being, oop, that doesn't actually align anymore, and I need to evolve and change. And I really think that it's so important for us, and it can be so uncomfortable to
Oof.
say when like, shit, I need to readjust here, I need to learn and grow, and I know better, so I'm going to do better. And
Yeah.
that's not a shame point. It's not a, bad, bad, bad. It's a like, oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm existing in this gray area. And within that gray area, new pieces of information came in where I'm like, oh, geez, I'm off base here. I want to learn more and realign. In those moments is when our evolution continues to happen, right? Like, I think it's this process of both. It's coming back home to self. And sometimes in that moment of realignment, we're like, yep, no, that feels right. That feels right. And then
Yeah.
there's other moments where it's like, oop, I'm back home with self, but that actually doesn't feel right. Something is still.
Because once you get into realignment, you're able to see, okay, instead of reacting
Mhm,
in an emotional reaction or a triggered reaction, right? Because that's
mhm,
not coming from a place of alignment,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, thoughts and perceptions and belief systems, they're going to evolve, right?
Mhm,
Especially when you go into it and be like, where did these come from?
mhm,
Right? Have I believed this since I was 6?
mhm,
Well, it was taught to me. And
mhm.
that might resonate till the day you go home, right? But sometimes it changes, and that's why changes can be really uncomfortable. And that's why it
Mhm.
is a bit uncomfortable right now because there's so much change happening all over,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
Collectively, individually, spiritually, like there's so much change happening on this planet that it can
mhm,
be enormously uncomfortable. So having personal boundaries, even if they're, like I said, if they're for that day, if they're for that cycle in your life, or if they're for life, right? They
mhm,
can be malleable, they can change, but you're the one that makes
mhm,
them and maintains them and changes them. Nobody else builds that. That's you,
mhm,
right?
mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, in a big triggering world right now where we're being faced with so much change and so much like karmic stuff, people are facing some of their biggest fears that they've ever had to face
Mhm,
before, right? It's going to take a lot of practice in being self-aware, practice in coming home so that you can evaluate exactly how you perceive this change and how you want to be involved in it. Do you want to be a forerunner? Like there might be some things where I'll be like, yeah, I'll stand front of line and I'll fight it to the death. And then there's other things will be like, I'm going to, the best that I can do is have peaceful change and like hold energetic frequency in my house with
Mhm.
fire. You know what I mean? Like versus doing. It's
Yeah.
all within what resonates with you within this big change. There's a
Hmm.
lot of little like tidbits of information in this episode. We've kind of
I know.
boundaries change.
Yeah. I am, since I'm on the, train of sharing quotes, I saw another one that was shared by someone this week that I really liked. And the quote is by Vex King. And it says, if you don't want to get criticized, hide from the world. Be nobody, stand for nothing, never express yourself, keep your creativity hidden, but realize that a life lived in fear and anonymity is no life at all. Progress and growth demand bravery, having the courage to be disliked while staying kind. Meet cruelty with grace and stand tall in who you are, no matter the noise. And when I
That's
read that, I was like, oh,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
because it speaks to so many of the things that we touched on.
yeah,
Um, Even the way that we're living our lives. I think a lot of us are really reevaluating that. And
yeah.
I think it's beautiful because in a lot of ways there's a lot of struggle in that, but it's bringing us back to the earth and it's bringing us back to like what is important in life and how do we want to live this incarnation? And I mean,
Hmm.
I think that always has to be the question, but it's so easy to and not that it always has to be at the forefront of the mind because that can bring us out of the present, but like it always I for me anyways, I often circle back to that question because like you're living your life and what do you want it to be? And there's so much influence around who, what, where, when, why, how. And it, as you've been saying, it pulls us away from that alignment. And we can't be
Yeah.
everything to everybody. We can't always be the right thing for everybody. We can't live our lives in the way that
Oh, that's exhausting. You
it's
can't
just you'll never
possibly
win.
ever be, never.
Yeah.
And then the further you get away from your center, right? And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh God, how many times I found myself being the chameleon or the
Mm-hmm.
shapeshifter, like having to figure out what other people need me to be. But again, that's my perception of what their perception is of me, which is usually not accurate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why only you can go and find your center and then evaluate exactly what you need in this current situation. Because energies are huge right now, and the power of thought is so insanely important. Like you're saying, like, how do you want to live this life? Truthfully, how do you want to live this life? Because you are the creator of your thoughts. You are. You are not your thoughts. You are the creator of the thoughts. So you create the thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
which create the beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
which then manifest to the actions.
Mm-hmm.
And so to really try to elicit change, don't skip the first two steps. Don't skip the thoughts, then the beliefs, and go right into action
Mm-hmm.
because you're uncomfortable in the current. Everybody wants to just go change it. I'm going to do this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to change. They go right to the action.
Yeah.
But really, the action is the projection of the thoughts created that form into the beliefs that then project the action. So really, like, digest that for a hot second. If you
Mm-hmm.
need to put up some boundaries and come in and realign, what does that look like? Start being conscious of the thoughts that are creating the belief systems. What are
Mm-hmm.
the thoughts that are happening throughout the day unconsciously?
Mm-hmm.
You have so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're really feeling like this pull to like change what's going on, action around you, then like you got to go back and start being really conscious of the thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that will take effort and not closing people out or it's like sometimes shutting down all the voices for a minute from social media from so that you can go in and be like whose thoughts are these where are they like how come they're being affirmed so much in my system Where are they coming from? Observe it for a minute. And then once you really do observe it, you're going to see how many thoughts come up in a day where you're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
What? If my
Mm-hmm.
kid said this to me, I'd be like, what?
Mm-hmm.
No, honey. Like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
And but I'm having them like how many times a day that are forming this like big chunk of a belief system that is projecting this huge part of my life. Like, what the heck? No, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take back my power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Try
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you said that, and I feel like it's such a good point to close on. It's like we're on the same wavelength because I was thinking too, sometimes with these conversations, and I'll speak for myself, I can get so like, oh my gosh, I have to change everything, blah, 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 like my whole life. And that's not at all what we're saying.
Mm-mm.
There's no requirement or need for anyone to live any certain way or have to change their circumstances or change the life that they're living, because a lot of people say, well, like, I got to pay the bills and I'm a single mom and my socioeconomic status is different than this person's who's saying these things, and like all of that is so true and real, and your lived experience doesn't have to be that you change everything or that is
No.
the way. It's the small moments, it's the presentedness, it's the,
Yes.
I can't start a homestead, so I'm gonna like get a little planter and grow some herbs, and I'm gonna tend to
Yeah.
those herbs because that feels good. Like we were talking about growing food before this, so that's kind of why it's in my mind. But it doesn't have to be you upend your life and everything has to look different. It's the thoughts, it's the moments, it's the way that you show up in your life, and that ripples out big time.
Totally.
And when
Big time.
people are strong in who they are and their boundaries and their energetic signature and they're in alignment with that, the outside details kind of fall to the wayside. It's still very real and we live them, but your impact in the world is great, regardless of any of those outside details.
Yeah.
And so,
And then the law of attraction actually happens because you
mm,
have to follow these steps in order to resonate in the frequency in which you're really wanting to. So if you see something outside of yourself and you're like, I want that, we think to go jump to the action, right? Because we want change,
mhm,
right? But chances are where you're standing and where that is an energetic match. But
mhm,
how do you become that energetic match? Is you change it from within, the
mhm,
thoughts, the beliefs, then the actions. That's how the energetic signature changes. And
mhm,
all of a sudden you start seeing, instead of, "Ugh, I'm so broke, I'm so broke, I'm so broke," you're saying, I have this phone bill and I can pay. I'm so grateful that I can pay this phone bill this month.
mhm,
I am so grateful. I'm so, yes, like like truly like feel it because you're paying it.
mhm,
You're paying that bill,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And then the belief system is like, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so freaking proud of myself that I've created a reality where I can pay my cell phone bill.
mhm.
Look at me go. That like independent or that sovereign part of self, like that has a very different signature to it than this cell phone is going to break me. I'm so broke. I'm so broke. How am I going to pay it? How am I going to pay it? I have this now. I have nothing left.
Mhm.
Now I have nothing left. Nothing. It really does hold you in a different energetic signature. It really does.
Mhm.
But that scarcity kind of belief system that drives us into fear is such a real thing, but
Oh
it
gosh.
gets driven home with everything we're watching, listening to, interacting
Yeah.
with, especially right now,
Mhm.
because people are like scared and in
Mhm.
fear. But you guys don't forget this fear is getting driven into us from every different direction.
Mhm.
You hear it in conversations. I hear it in conversations all the time. People are so broke. People have no money. People have no money. Well, hey, I'm broke. I'm broke. The economy's never been so bad. We can't afford this. Food's so expensive. Blah, 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 blah. Yes, all those might be true. But if those are the thoughts that are creating the beliefs, then are manifesting into your reality, you're not going to change it from that same energetic signature. So these are little things that we can start to be in control of so that we can change those signature. And lots of times, full circle here, you have to create boundaries in your life so
Mhm.
you can come back into alignment and rewrite the script.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Elyse.
I think we'll end. I think we'll just end there.
Yay.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us. And we hope you enjoyed. Let us know how this has been showing up in your life. Let us know, as always, if there's any other topics you want us to talk about. G is going to be coming back to us shortly in the coming weeks ish.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please let us know if there's any other topics that you want us to touch on. Make sure to
Yes.
like, subscribe. All of our details are in the write up. Also, Lisa has her tune in, tune up starting pretty quickly.
Hmm.
I have Meditation Mondays starting on Monday, September 30th.
Yeah,
It's going to
Monday.
be a good one. We're going to be like doing a whole process with all of these energies around like the letting go, the new moon and eclipse that's coming up next week. So please join me
Yes.
for that. G's starting up with her offerings again soon. So all of that is linked in the YouTube write up if you're wanting to check that out. And we hope you have a beautiful week. Bye.